I failed in my 20s. And now that I only have 1 month left in my 20s, 1 month before I turn 30, I am reflecting on what exactly does that failure mean? And how can I learn from it? How can I make sure that those failures are turned into lessons that can make me better as I go forward in life? But as I sit back and I reflect on the last decade of my life, the 20s, which are supposed to be a special time, I do think that there are some key ways that I failed. And so today I want to share those with you and hope that maybe through my reflections, my introspection on my own failures, that you will have an opportunity to better my mistakes. So here are the 3 ways that I know that I failed in my 20s. The first failure that I want to talk about, and the one that really encapsulates entirely what I'm thinking about when I say that I failed in my 20s, is the balance between what is externally expected of you and what you want for yourself. And I think that the 20s are a decade of a lot of growing up and figuring out who you are and what you want. And I don't think this is a thing that is easy to succeed at. And I definitely think that at times I have, but at other times I haven't. So when I look at my life, if I think back to 10 years ago when I turned 20, to what I wanted to achieve by the time that I was 30 versus what society or those around me expected of me to achieve, I definitely did way more of what was expected than what I wanted. There are personal goals. I'm gonna be specific, the very specific failures that I feel like happen. So for example, the things that I know that I like to put my time into and the skills that I've wanted to develop, I have not given enough time to, because I have instead been working really hard or doing other things that is distracting from myself, but maybe beneficial to others. So I am not as good at the piano as I want to be. Every day when I see my piano, I think, why haven't I continued playing? I would love, and I always have said this, that the languages that I speak.
Mimi ni hapa kijijini Mangula, Tanzania, ni hurudi kila mwaka kwa miaka 7. Mara kwanza nilikuja naenda na NGO yangu Trail of Seeds, na tulifanya kazi na kikundi kucheza ngoma hapa. Wakati nilirudi kwa mara 2, tulinunua shamba, na kisasa kila mwaka tulilima pamoja, tunatembelea, na sasa tuna rafiki. Na mimi ni furahi sana kila mwaka kurudi kwa sababu hapa ni nyumba yangu. Tuko pamoja hapa na inshallah nitarudi kila mwaka kwa miaka mingi.
I want to get better at, and I want to be really fluent in something. I've said that for a decade, right? And I've given myself some of the opportunities, but not all of them. Also physically, I've been a yo-yo dieter my entire 20s, and I was never at the point that I really wanted to be. Not just about health, but also about aesthetics and everything. I also have wanted to write a lot more in my 20s, and I really didn't. I have so many ideas that I would love to share, and I simply haven't. And I think that it's really easy because humans are incredibly judgmental creatures, that we try and fix the things that we know others will judge us for. So we want the external things. We want our resume. We want our social media. We want the things that our family and friends think about us to be the things that we focus on and the things that we improve. I think at the end of the day, when you're sitting in your bed at night, or for me now, a month before I turned 30, when I think about what did I really want to achieve and did I do it? The things that would make me happy, did I get there? I definitely didn't focus on those things as much as I wish I would. And that's, I think, overall the biggest lesson in the 20s for me, was to figure out who I am, what I want, and then to also get the kind of the determination and the structure and the willpower in order to actually achieve these things. My second big failure of my 20s was living as if I was in my 30s or in my 40s. From very early on in the 20s, I was so focused on being a professional and being in serious relationships and building a life and all of these things. And I realized at one point, and it really hit a head when I was 25. And I realized that from 20 to 25, all I had done was lived as if I was 30. And the kind of silly way that I've kind of framed it in my life is that my boarding school experience was kind of like the normal college experience, being on a campus and, really small environment, small community. Because I went to university in New York, that was really what a lot of people do in their 20s, being poor in a big city. Then very early in my 20s, when I had just turned 22, and even before that, when I was 21, and I came to Abu Dhabi and I had a good job and I was living so comfortably and, wearing suits every day, I basically lived, 21 to 25 as if I was a middle-aged man, in my 30s. And that entire time I was in, serious relationship, not married necessarily, but, I wasn't living like a young kid should. And so from 25 to 27, that's a big part of why I did the 2.5 years of travel, was because I wanted to enjoy my youth. And I did, and I, was able to, but not for the entire 10 years. I think it's great that in my life, I've always been the youngest to visit every country.
193?
The youngest to get my position in the different companies that I've had. And I think I'm addicted to that kind of stuff, being the youngest to do things. But that also means that you aren't doing the things you're supposed to do at that age, right? I don't know how great it is to say, oh, I've gotten this successful in my professional career in my 20s, because that means that was such a huge focus of it. And if you normally, make partner at, 38 and you make it earlier than that, it means that you were great at what you were doing, but it also means that you're not doing the normal time frame. So I've always just kind of looked at my life, looked around me, compared myself, and comparisons is not how we should do, but I do compare myself to others, but I also compare myself to my expectations. And I realize, I'm so much more serious and grounded and have this foundation than someone needs to be when they're in their 20s. And that's fine in a lot of ways, but I also then lost a little bit of that. I lost the ability to just be a youth and not really care about it at all. And I remember when I was 22, Taylor Swift came out with a song called 22. It says, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22. It's something about having nothing to do, and she can go and be has no worries in the world. And at that time, I was already in boardrooms, working 20-hour days, being so intense. And I was I wish that for me, 22 meant that. And it just simply didn't. And I wish that I was able to spend more of my 20s really enjoying being young, rather than always trying to achieve things really young, which I could have just waited to achieve like further in the future. The third way that I failed in my 20s is in relationships. I spent most of the first 5 years of my 20s in serious relationships, a couple different ones, but I was basically like a serial monogamist from 20 to 25. And then from 25 until 30, I've been very single. And I almost wish that I could have like switched that around, because neither time like felt right. When I was so serious in my relationships when I was younger, I had in the back of my mind the thought of like, now's not the time to be like this. And now when I'm not so serious and have been like that for so long, I'm like, I need to get serious and I need to focus on this. And I don't know that there is like a right answer, of course, to the way that you should have relationships in your life. Most of the people around me, especially my family, my grandparents, my parents, my sisters, and their husbands are all high school sweethearts. Have been with their significant other, or college sweethearts, and have been with their significant other for decades. And so I'm really the only one like in my family that's had multiple like relationships. I think it's like cool when you're younger. Like if you told me when I was 20, like if you took me through the love life that I've had and you know, all the serious stuff and all the fun stuff, I would like feel cool about it. And I think that now I like just don't really like, I know that times are different and like 30 is like not too young to have a relationship, and I need to like put the right effort into getting one. But it's one of the things that's like in my mind is, why did I choose to have all those relationships? Why did I fail at those relationships? Why did I then be so casual for so long? Like why have I chosen not to pursue more serious things? And it's a lot of like heavy questions, but I think as I go into my 30s, like relationships with others is one of like the key things that I'm thinking about. But very important to the relationships part, but also to everything, is although I do feel like there have been some serious failures in my 20s, overall, I am incredibly proud and happy with how I did live my 20s. And all of these failures are lessons that I will bring into my life to make me better. And so overall, I absolutely succeeded in my 20s as well. And even just acknowledging how you can have failures and successes is a success. So tomorrow's video, I am going to talk about how I have succeeded in my 20s beyond my wildest imagination. So I know that these videos are really only for those of you who have been like following me for a long time, just like a glimpse into my personal life. It's also for myself. When I'm in 10, 20 years, it'll be cool to have these videos where I'm thinking about turning 30. And so I hope that you enjoy them, and I'm excited to see you guys and talk with you tomorrow.